During the BWSE for 2030 PLA Activity 1, which was dedicated to the topic towards an inclusive European higher education by 2030, 30 members from higher education institutions, from student representations, from national ministries responsible for higher education, from non-governmental organizations and other representative groups met together for 2 days in The Hague to discuss current, common or also very specific challenges and practical solutions to tackling and improving inclusion and diversity in higher education.
Although in my country you have done a lot of things for the inclusiveness of higher education, I believe that there are some obstacles that we have to work on this. First of all, I would like to mention the financial issues, the budgets. For example, I work for the Ministry of Education and Culture in Cyprus, and of course we have already allocated a lot of millions for the grants for the students, but I believe that we need much more money to be able to help more students for that. So, on the other hand, I believe that budget needed also for the institutions to be able to develop some kind of facilities to help students of all categories, not only disadvantaged students, but also, let's say, psychological service and so on. So, budget, I think, is one of the most important obstacles that we have to work on it and go further, another step further.
In my country, which is Italy, I think the main obstacle is still related to funding of opportunities and grants for students. In fact, one of the main issues we see these days is that there are numbers of students that are eligible for scholarship, that satisfy all the requirements set by the universities, but still don't receive any help because funding is lacking. This shows us how university education and overall higher education is still not felt as a public good, as a human right, as a social responsibility.
So the main obstacle for inclusive education for our institution, I could start with the positive that we have inclusive education as one of our #1 priorities, and it's very widely shared aim and ambition for the institution. However, having the time and the knowledge and the understanding to change actual practice so it really is inclusive is the challenge. So it's that time, it's that effort, the understanding of what's actually needed to be done to make it inclusive. So the aim is there, the ambition is there, but actually the practice and embedding that practice is the issue, the main challenge to allow our education system institutionally and maybe more widely to be inclusive in reality.
What I believe it's the biggest challenge is how we are able together to translate the political commitment to actions. Because it's not one step, it's not an easy job. It needs funding, it needs structures, it needs policies, but also it needs a paradigm shift. We have heard in these days that we also need a culture of inclusion, and this is something that needs to happen in synergy with all stakeholders and also in very difficult times. So right now, also taking into account the profound changes that are happening around us, the crises that are upon us in terms of energy, cost of living, etc., we even more need a holistic perspective to implement changes in social dimension. So it's high time for this, and we heard a lot of challenges that the progress is maybe too slow. We are seeing progress, and we are happy to acknowledge that, but it needs way more to implement what is needed to make a reality the inclusion and diversity in higher education in Europe.
You tell me if something's missing. Representation, independence, thinking of independence of the student voice and the representation, training and support,
visibility, partnership, acknowledgement, accessibility, and the mother of all keywords, finances. Yes.
The peer learning activity so far has been an amazing experience, and my main takeaway is just how we have a completely shared understanding and a shared experience. I thought the experiences were going to be actually more diverse than they are. The fact that we were able to come up with 4 principles in quite a straightforward way, that we all understood that finance and social dimensions really inhibit that inclusion, and we worked through that very quickly and easily, and I just thought it would be a broader discussion and maybe more angst in there, and it wasn't. It was a really shared experience, a really shared understanding right across Europe. So it was really interesting to go from that institutional perspective across countries and across Europe and realise that we really do understand what the issues are, and it's just that change that's needed.
This peer learning activity showed me that there is still much work to do, but luckily we have each other. We have different experiences, different values, and good practices that we can implement at different levels with different stakeholders. And it's nice to see that despite our different backgrounds, despite our works that are quite far and different, we still have the same goal of making universities more inclusive.
My key takeaway from the past 2 days at the peer learning activity is that it really exemplified the kind of approaches that are needed to make inclusion and diversity in higher education a reality across Europe. We gathered many different nationalities, representative groups, individuals with very different experiences and very different understandings of what inclusion means, which groups are currently underrepresented or even excluded, and we still got together and came up with very productive recommendations and ideas to tackling diversity and making it a reality in the European higher education area. So I think the approach, the necessity to come together with different stakeholders and also thinking outside the box and also outside your own context is really an exemplary approach to achieving higher education that is inclusive and diverse and therefore reflects society as it is today in Europe.
We had some negative examples of selling their book.
My key takeaway from this peer learning activity is I think that we need to relook the structures of our educational system. I've been working in this field for some time, but I think I underestimated the value in restructuring, redesigning and rethinking our educational system. Instead of tuning and tweaking and making slight changes, I think we should maybe just rethink the whole concept.